Royal Blood. How did we get so dark? This is, as you can tell, I've had the self-titled debut. I also had that as teaser EP, which I'll admit, when it came to Royal Blood, the stuff that I heard from the teaser EP, when I listened to that, I found better than this album. And, only the singles, or the songs that would eventually become singles, would wind up being my favorites, and apparently the B-sides that I wish I had with me on this album, from the deluxe edition, or limited edition, I guess, at the time seemed to have been far superior to the tracks that I heard on this album. That was a long time ago when it had come out, or at least within the year following that was when I first started to listen to them. Or at least I didn't start getting into them until I heard Figure It Out on the radio, which, that's a little late for that, but I'm glad I didn't review them then, because I don't think I would have liked them as much then as I did when I finally went back and listened to this album now. That being said, and I loved the more lo-fi-ish sort of production style, which was very lo-fi garage rocky, White Stripes-esque style that was of their production, which was definitely complementary more of their White Stripes influences as opposed to their Queens of Stone Age type influences, or at least that sort of stoner hard rock kind of vibe. And the band consists of Mike Kerr and, why am I forgetting the bassist's name? I think it's Benjamin. I believe that's your name, dude. I'm sorry if I'm butchering you, dude. You seem like you seem like a good drummer. Ben Thatcher. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Sorry about that. Yes. So, Mike Kerr, bassist / vocalist, of course, and kind of bringing some guitar stuff. Mostly his bass style consisting of a guitar amp and a bass amp. I'm guessing, of course, the guitar amp is more likely the bassman. And I don't know if he's using a Muff Pi, maybe? Because he has to have at least had thought of a distortion pedal. That, or at least some kind of octafuzz or octave or something that is somewhat friendlier on, like a Pog, more specifically, that could have at least been friendlier on both a bass, for a bass and a guitar. I'm guessing that's more likely what he could have possibly used. Given that some of the distortion is somewhat like an octave fuzz, to some degree or another, with maybe a little Tube Screamer-ish vibe. So it's possible either he's using that, an OCD, or a Procrat, maybe a Procorat. I don't know if he's really using that. I've never seen anyone use one of those, for when they try to figure out what his sound was made up of, because it was a lot harder to find. But I would find a pedal that works for both guitar and bass, and I'd probably especially for distortion, and I would more than likely bet that is something he would use. Regardless, back to the album. Album at hand, How Did We Get So Dark? I mean, this band is kind of tight for what they are, as being, your typical power duo that most people would consider Black Keys. Even though I personally like the Black Keys, except that last album that they had done was kind of... And Dan Auerbach's solo careers isn't really all that good. Or at least it pales in comparison to his work with the Black Keys, which may not say much to some people, I guess, but I enjoyed Black Keys, at least some of their earlier stuff when they were more of a blues band. And I was okay with what they were doing when they were trying to change it up a bit, because, they were so many albums in with that blues rock sound, and they kind of, production-wise, kind of perfected it as best as they kind of could once they went to non-such albums and stuff like that. But regardless of that, Royal Blood's style, of course, being more Queen Stone Age White and more closer to White Stripes, as opposed to any Black Keys, or even though the particular formatted style of using bass and drum is more in the similar vein to a band like Death from Above 1979. saying the right year. Or did they start calling themselves Death from Above on its own, and they no longer have to deal with that one band, foreign band or whatever? I don't know. But because I don't follow them as much as I would have, say, what Royal Blood and whatnot. But in this new album, well, is it better than the last album? After listening to this and realizing I underestimated it, I kind of have to say this album, production-wise, at least for like the first track, which a lot of people dug, but I don't see the appeal, guys. Everyone likes the opening title track, and thinks it's all that heavy, and I'm like, what were you listening to? Like, seriously, what were you guys, some of you reviewers out there that I've seen that have complimented on this, were listening to, thought that this album was that heavy and worth headbanging to? I got nothing out of it. I got more out of the singles again this time around, with Lights Out and whatnot, and I remember tracks deeper in the list that are actually far more superior than the title track. I don't, it may be heavy from a lyrical standpoint, but maybe I wouldn't really know how to get into the lyrics at this point, given it's kind of my first listen. Maybe if I go back and listen to it again, maybe within another 2 years, like I did with this one, I might actually appreciate it better. But overall, I gotta say that so far, my favorite tracks thus far in this track listing have mostly been the ones that they've been promoting as singles, like Lights Out, I Only Lie When I Love You. At first, I was kind of iffy with Hook, Line, and Sinker, but actually started to grow on me. Same would have been said for Lights Out as well. And Sleep is definitely, at least the way they end the track, feels like it makes it definitely a good feel like a good choice for a closer. That's for damn sure, and does give you a feel like you want to come back to this album, even though your startup track is a little like, I'm sorry, Out of the Black was a better startup track than this. I'm sorry, guys, but I'm just not feeling this title track. I wanted to. I know at first I looked to even stream the track itself first before I even listened to this album, and I was like, because I was like, face palming, like, what are people talking about that I'm not hearing here? Because I'm not banging my head. I've heard heavier shit than this. I mean, you've seen some of the metal stuff I've talked about lately. I've heard heavier than this. I've heard heavier than this from Pain of Salvation, which in sound seems somewhat closer in retrospective to these guys, but from a technical standpoint, far superior. And of course, they've got more members and instrumentation going on than, Royal Blood, and for what Royal Blood does, it's pretty damn tight. I will still say that, and this definitely has more of a Queens of Stone Age vibe, but more in the vein of the last couple of albums, and hopefully not super much like what we're gonna get out of Villains, maybe. I'm not sure about that new Queens Stone Age album. I'm worried for the band, just a little bit. I didn't mind Era Vulgaris. I'm fine with Like Clockwork, but I kind of like. There's at least something more to it going on with those albums, but this one definitely has that, but more like in the Like Clockwork kind of way as opposed to even in production, I guess you could say. I mean, all these tracks I wouldn't really be able to get in depth with lyrics with you. There's not really anything I could say in depth as opposed to what I would have said about this album. That was about their debut, but overall, guys, it's a good, solid release, and if most people put it as an album of the year, I might wind up on that train, but to a certain degree. But right now, it's kind of just, it's good enough for now, but I don't think the band's going to be able to really do too much to move forward unless they add more members, or at least add more guest members to add some extra instrumentation into the band. But the real question is how much Queens of the Stone Age influences are going to show up more in this band, as opposed to the White Stripes influences that they used to have on this album that are somewhat very little of. It's definitely, you could definitely tell in the production style, it's has more Queens of a Queen Stone Age influences as opposed to the more White Stripes influences, especially in production, that their debut album gave us. But again, overall, it's definitely a solid release from this band, this blues rock power duo, as some people will say. That I don't, and Mike Kerr is pretty good vocals as well here and there. Sometimes they'll try to throw a little Hamai thing going on, but he's mostly got a Jack White style vocals thing going on with him. But overall, guys, How Do We Get So Dark is honestly, if I can just put this freaking thing back in here, I'd want to give it this, but I feel like I should give it this for now, and maybe in time, if How Do We Get So Dark becomes a much better album track listed here, I may say it rocks all the way, but for now, it's kind of a thumbs up right now. So, as of course, most thumbs up to most albums that are thumbs up and that are awesome to just plain old rock your socks off, melt your face off. They always go on a guitar amp as it always should. And yeah, I enjoyed this album. What did you guys think of it? Which by now you've already listened to this album long before I have. So just once again, if you finally do bother to watch this, by the way, as far as I know from the last time I checked my views, I'm very disappointed with some people who haven't bothered to check out the Wolves review, especially given how Rise Against fan base kind of is, or at least they did kind of have a huge enough fan base. I don't know where they are. Where's the Rise Against peeps at when you need them, you know? Whatever. Hopefully it's gotten more views since that time I checked it and since this review here. But please check that out. Give that review some love. I mean, I gave the band. I'll admit to it. Spoiler: I gave the band some love. If you can't tell from over here, I pretty well gave the band some love. I mean, plenty of love. About as much love as I did this album. So, give it a shot. And kind of unlike another album, but I would venture into the curiosity of that album, which I'm going to also talk about in a little bit. But again, comment below, let me know what you guys think. Like the video if you rock that like with thrust if you must on this video. Hit the subscribe button. As always, guys, keep it random, keep it real, keep it rocking. I will see you in the next review, which will happen somewhat shortly from now. Hopefully Royal Blood might need, hopefully at some point this band Royal Blood will eventually maybe do something a little bit more with their sound, or add some other instrumentation besides their their bass and drum. Maybe be something interesting if they added a guitar player, and that guitar player wound up kind of adding even more bass elements as well, or something interesting. Maybe get another bass player and do the same thing. Make it a dual thing. That'd be kind of cool. Cool as far as I'm concerned. 2 bass players. Bass players doing the same kind of thing. That would be kind of nice. I'd say, as long as that person can keep up with Kerr and Thatcher, I think that'll be fun. That'd be cool. That's my take on that. And once again, guys, keep it random, keep it real, keep it rocking. Take care, y'all. Till the next video.